Hey there. This is a really different video for my channel. I ran a poll a few months back asking if you guys would like to see longer format videos to sleep to. I will confess that I enjoy listening to video game lore as I fall asleep, as it puts me at ease. So why not Transformers? So rather than doing, deep individual character dives, we're going to be taking a broader look at the entirety of Volume 1 of the Transformers Energon universe, which contains the first 6 issues of the comic. Please know that this is not intended to replace you reading the comics themselves. Please go read them if you haven't. This just acts kind of as a refresher with some personal thoughts thrown in here and there. Lastly, before we start, this video doesn't have a lot of fancy visuals to it, but that doesn't mean that I did not spend a lot of time putting it together. So if you can, leave a like and maybe even subscribe if you're not. Let me know what you think about in the comments below. That is, before you fall asleep, of course. Cheers. Helicopters soar above a golden sunset just as an orange spaceship plummets towards a prehistoric Earth. Flashbacks to another time come to mind of a dying soldier on the battlefield in a space shuttle firing into the sky. Sparky Witwicky spends most of his time at a VFW bar, a place where veterans of war can meet each other and spend time together. Sparky takes full advantage of the bar portion of this establishment and spends his time drinking in between shifts at his job at the local power plant. His son, Spike, visits him and wonders how long he's been there, a question answered by the bartender, Danny. Amongst these three, there's also Jerry, a somewhat disheveled individual who rambles on about seeing a red and white spaceship flying down from space. No one pays him any mind. Spike discusses the past, specifically the death of his brother, Jimmy, and how drinking away one's sorrows won't bring him back. After a heated discussion, Sparky leaves the bar to go to work with his coworker, Davey. Spike meets up with Carly, and the two head to Hangers Rock. But before the two can view the moon via a telescope, they plummet into a chasm left by the Cybertronian vessel, the Ark. The humans land in one of the engines of this massive ship, only to turn around and see the mangled bodies of both Autobots and Decepticons. They wonder to themselves what they have stumbled upon, but not before Jetfire flies into the scene. He, unaware of the humans, explains to his brethren that he has been lost for so many centuries, but that he is now here to fix things. Jetfire does so by activating Teletran 1, which reconstructs Starscream. But to Jetfire's horror, Starscream immediately begins to execute Autobots, starting with Bumblebee. A struggle between the two metal giants begins. Spike and Carly run out of the way to avoid a now online Optimus Prime from attacking Starscream. The battle ensues as more Transformers come back online, only for Spike to watch Optimus clutch the broken body of Bumblebee in his arms. They may not know each other yet, but Spike recognizes that even this machine has lost a great deal of family. Because of this understanding, Spike and Carly opt to push Optimus's ion blaster towards him to aid him in his time of need, which allows him to gain the upper hand on the Decepticons and escape. Optimus and Ratchet tend to their dying brother, Jetfire, who is revealed to not have known about the conflict on Cybertron. Centuries ago, Jetfire left his home to find a new source of energy for their home, and now that he has returned, he sees that only death has arrived. Optimus once again clutches the lifeless body of a dear friend as Spike and Carly watch on. In the meantime, Starscream and Soundwave argue over the best use of their Energon resources, as the Ark and supercomputer Teletran 1 are both severely damaged. There's not enough power to resurrect more Decepticons and keep themselves operating at the same time. Most notably, Soundwave says that Starscream is responsible for finding more energy, and that it's what Megatron would do. Before he can finish, however, Starscream demands that the name of the former Decepticon leader never be spoken. Not far from the crash site of the Ark, Sparky and Davy wrap up their shift at the power plant, only to be visited by a now exhausted Starscream. Full of rage and childlike behavior, Starscream picks up Davy and exclaims how tragic and pathetic the humans are. Sparky watches on as his friend is then crushed to death by this mechanical menace. He once again is face to face with the horrors of war. Optimus walks out into the gaze of a beaming sun and looks across Earth's beauty. He recognizes the sheer wonder that this new planet brings, only to be drawn away from it by the sound of a muffled crunch. Looking down at his feet, he realizes that he has stepped on a deer and has killed it. Struck with confusion and grief, he is comforted by Spike, who assures him it was only an accident. Optimus is not used to walking upon a planet where the ground beneath his feet shifts and moves in response. The two discuss their pasts. Spike talks about his mother naming him for his spiky hair, and Optimus about his home, Cybertron, and the war that ravaged it. The two are from entirely different worlds and different backgrounds, but they are able to bond over the same aspect, the loss of family. Cliffjumper, the loud-mouthed, comedic Autobot, enters the scene to lighten up the mood and cheer up Optimus. However, Cliff is startled by the appearance of Carly and Spike, likening them to turbo rats, whatever those might be. Carly immediately takes command, something that she does quite often, and demands that Cliffjumper shows her and her friends respect after saving their lives. Cliffjumper obliges, and the two hit it off as friends. Ratchet informs Optimus that their energon levels are running low, and without more, they cannot bring back more of their fallen brothers, or for that matter, stay online much longer themselves. Optimus suggests that they use the power of the Matrix to revive the others, something that he tried to do for Jetfire, but Ratchet scolds him for this. The power of the Matrix is limited and connected to Optimus's life force. The risk is too large. Optimus is trying his best to save those around him, but he is unsure of how to do that without taking drastic measures. As with all aspects of war, there are no easy answers, no quick roads to success, no actions that do not have consequences. At the power plant, Sparky frantically recalls the recent events to a local police officer, who brushes him off as not adhering to safety standards. This is all just protocol. That is, until Skywarp descends from the sky to obtain more energy. Soundwave and the other Decepticons join in, now full on energon to conquer this new planet. As Sparky hides amidst the rubble, he watches as yet again the Decepticons squash the locals to a puddle of blood. But nearby, pilot Cart Mike Frosting and his co-pilot are called to investigate the power surge caused by the Decepticon attack. A dogfight between Frosting and Starscream ensues, only for Frosting to eject and get squished by Starscream. The co-pilot of the airfighter refuses to go down easily and uses a flare gun to escape Starscream's clutches. As the Decepticon leader flees, we see that the co-pilot is none other than Duke from the G.I. Joe series. Optimus and his team watch from afar as a pillar of smoke arises from the power plant. Cliffjumper uses a pair of binoculars to confirm that the Decepticons are responsible, which makes Spike jump into action in fear of his father's safety. Optimus once again argues with Ratchet, saying that Earth is now to be defended by the Autobots. After all, they brought their civil war to this planet. Optimus and Spike head to the power plant, leaving Carly, Ratchet, and Cliffjumper behind, but not for long, as Carly, full of anger, rushes off towards her home. Sparky, who has escaped from the evil eye of the Decepticons, rushes into Davy's home and begins to arm himself up with military gear. He and Davy have obviously served in the army at one point together, henceforth the flashbacks that we saw at the start of the series. As Sparky arms up, a frantic Carly rushes in searching for her father, and with a heavy heart, Sparky tells Carly that her father has been murdered. This devastating news brings Carly to her knees. Her world has been shattered. But before much can be said between the two, Laserbeak bursts into the house and attacks Sparky. Cliffjumper is close behind to eliminate the threat. Sparky, however, still full of fear and haunted by the past war, unloads his shotgun into Cliffjumper and runs away with Carly. The Decepticons are not faring much better, however, as Soundwave and Starscream continue to bicker amongst themselves. Their new source of power is not sufficient enough to power up Teletran 1 fully, a fact that Starscream blames Soundwave for. But as it turns out, Laserbeak was able to send a distress signal before his battle, and so Skywarp is dispatched to deal with this issue. Sparky returns to the VFW bar with Carly in tow to find many of the local patrons already locked and loaded to start a new war. Carly pleads with Sparky just as Cliffjumper shows himself into the bar, promising he's not a threat. But Cliffjumper is not welcome inside as the town's protectors open fire. The hometown militia continues their rampage when Skywarp lands to take care of the threat, announcing how much fun killing humans is. Cliffjumper is still recovering from the humans' fire when Carly stands up in his defense against Skywarp. Things look dire for the human girl until Optimus rolls in to the rescue, directly hitting Skywarp in the chest. The two get locked in a brutal fight that is only interrupted when Optimus's arm is damaged by the human's RPG launcher. Now facing a brutal death, Optimus hangs on to his mangled arm in search of a way to avoid Skywarp's final blow. As Sparky and his neighbors open fire on the downed Optimus, Spike rushes in aid in hopes to save his new friend from death. But he is caught in the crossfire. Sparky screams that the firing stop and rushes to his son, now lying on the floor bleeding. In a fit of rage and righteousness, Optimus stands to his feet, rips off his damaged arm, and uses it to beat Skywarp into the ground. Optimus recalls the deer he killed when arriving on Earth, and he cannot help but feel responsible for Spike's situation. Face to face with the boy's father, Optimus grabs Spike and tells Sparky that he's going to save his son. Arriving in the aftermath of Skywarp's battle with Optimus, Starscream questions where the Autobot rebels fled to. After getting his answer, Starscream leaves to finish the job, also leaving Skywarp alone to die. Optimus and Sparky race towards a hospital in order to save the dying Spike, only for Starscream to catch up and rain down hell upon them. Thankfully, Carly and Cliffjumper have come to return the favor and save Optimus from certain doom. At the hospital, Spike is rushed in just as the Decepticons begin their full assault. Soundwave arrives with Rumble to dispatch Cliffjumper, while Starscream opens fire on the helpless humans inside the hospital. As the power inside shuts down, Ratchet appears with Jazz by his side to even the playing field. The Decepticons are outnumbered and outclassed with Jazz's revival. Cliffjumper, Optimus, Ratchet, and Jazz band together to push back the Decepticon war party and save Farmingham's hospital from total collapse. But it's not enough. The power is still down in the hospital, and Spike is fading quickly. In a tear-jerking moment, Optimus watches as Sparky grips with the reality that his son will never wake to see another day. Optimus opens his chest and reveals the matrix of leadership. Ratchet once again begins to scold Optimus, who responds with a line so simple and yet so effective. No more death. The Matrix brings the power back online in Farmingham, and Spike, as well as the other hospital patients, are saved. But as the Autobots count their victories, the Decepticons continue to fall apart at the seams. Soundwave returns to the Ark with the beaten Skywarp, only for Starscream to blame everyone but himself for the colossal failure. Teletran 1 needs more Cybertronian materials to repair and revive the Decepticons. So, Starscream and Shockwave opt to tear apart their weak brother Skywarp for their own twisted sense of the greater good. In a quieter scene, Sparky sits and talks with his son, now on a breathing machine, about his time in the war. We learn that after the conflict, Sparky only wanted to protect his sons from the world, but that lately, he has felt infected with grief and anger. In a moment of great weakness, as Sparky loses hope in all that is good, he witnesses Optimus transform for a sick child outside of the hospital window. This moment makes Sparky realize that maybe, perhaps, there is still good in the world. Optimus reveals to Sparky that the Matrix is now empty, and he cannot wake up Spike from the coma he is in, and it is now up to the Great Spark. Later on, Ratchet is able to fix the generator for the hospital, and shouts at Prime for using the power of the Matrix so recklessly, not because of the loss of its power, but because of the toll it has taken on Optimus himself. The Autobots will be in serious trouble without their leader, a point that Ratchet has been trying to make to Optimus for a long time now. Optimus pleads with Ratchet in this moment, telling him that everything, including Earth and the humans, are worth saving. Ratchet's response is that while he doesn't have the Energon to heal more soldiers, he does have a last-ditch effort to help level the playing field. Meanwhile, in the wreckage of Davy's home, Carly and Cliffjumper sit in momentary silence. Cliffjumper consoles Carly, revealing that his entire clan was murdered by Starscream, and he quickly joined the war efforts soon after. In this moment of vulnerability, Carly asks Cliffjumper if this feeling ever goes away, if it ever gets easier. Cliffjumper responds by simply saying, "Oh, Carly." Not sure how to answer such a heartbreaking question. As the sun begins to set, Optimus arrives, showing off the advantage that Ratchet had been holding onto. Megatron's arm and fusion cannon are now attached to his own body. As the Autobots regroup for countermeasures, Starscream's diabolical plan continues to unfold as he rips apart more Decepticons for parts and announces that he is the leader of the Decepticons forever, just as we see our first glimpse of a destroyed Megatron frozen in an iceberg. Optimus and Sparky recall their violent pasts, both haunted by the deeds required of them in the heat of battle. Sparky mentions that his time in the war was more than enough, just as Optimus explains there are no answers to why the world is constantly in conflict. If only the light years I traveled equated to the wisdom gained, he says. Starscream's vile plan has been completed, as the now deceased Skywarp has been grafted into Teletran 1, allowing the Decepticons to resurrect more soldiers. The first back to life is Thundercracker, who is immediately disgusted by the sight of his Seeker brother's fate. He blames the Autobot criminals for their evil deeds. Reflector, another raised soldier, is ready to fight, but questions Megatron's absence, a moment that Starscream quickly interjects into. The newly made warband ventures forth to attack the Autobots and their newfound energy source. Ratchet commends Sparky for his brilliant plan to utilize a nearby dam to convert energy into a sustainable power source for the Autobots. Wheeljack, now brought back online, albeit without a lower torso, tells Sparky that the work done at the dam will power Farmingham for over a decade alone, as well as provide power to more Autobots. As the water turbine begins to spin up, Optimus emerges, allowing for RC to be repaired before himself. Just as she is brought to life, however, RC pushes Ratchet aside to avoid the oncoming fire of a rage-fueled Starscream, who is now using Skywarp's death as a war cry Reflector and Frenzy spring into battle, only to immediately meet their comical ends at the hand of Optimus and his new firepower. We see that Carly once again ignores the orders of Cliffjumper and Optimus as she steps out into the battlefield to fire at Thundercracker, only to be saved from a fatal drop by RC. Jazz saves Cliffjumper's life from a sneaking rumble just as Optimus faces off against Starscream. The two leaders exchange heated words, but Starscream takes a fatal blow to his chest from Optimus's fusion cannon blast. As the Decepticons once again retreat, Optimus commands his men to pursue them in order to retake the Ark. Carly once again stands in the way, wanting to join them but is denied the opportunity. Optimus is trying his hardest to avoid more collateral damage after what happened to Spike. But Cliffjumper ignores this command and allows Carly to tag along. As the Autobots race up the mountain to reach the Ark, Optimus is struck by none other than Longhaul. Out of nowhere, the Constructicons arrive in an ambush and combine into Devastator to finish off the Autobots once and for all. As the battle rages on between Autobots and Decepticons, Sparky's life flashes before his eyes. He sees his son Jimmy departing into the sky as an astronaut, and he watches helplessly as the rocket is engulfed in flames. Carly and Cliffjumper narrowly escape Devastator's attack and opt to drive another route in order to sneak up behind the enemy. As this occurs, Optimus is able to break free from Devastator's attention and land a blow against the already wounded Starscream. But not for long, as Devastator re-enters the battle and brutally beats Optimus down. RC, Jazz, and Sparky manage to pull Optimus inside of the Ark to safety, but not without Ratchet losing his leg to the closing doors. Beaten and broken, the Autobots wait as Soundwave instructs Devastator to climb higher on the mountain to enter the Ark from a more advantageous angle. Carly and Cliffjumper manage to climb the mountain and face off against Starscream inside of the Ark's bridge, where they both take a vow of revenge for the loss of their loved ones. Optimus's life is in critical condition, and Ratchet has no answer to save him. As his spark begins to fade, Optimus raises the Matrix to his fellow soldiers and commands one of them to take up leadership of the Autobots. Before any of them can, Optimus loses his strength and drops the Matrix of leadership to the floor, right beside Sparky. In a moment of bravery, Sparky recalls his men from the war, his son Jimmy, and Spike. He has experienced so much death in his life, and he has been so powerless to stop it all. He reaches towards the Matrix. He asks Optimus to look after his boy, just as he would look after the world. Sparky walks into the Matrix, announcing how proud he is of his son, and sacrifices his life to save the dying Optimus. In doing so, Optimus is brought back to life stronger than ever. As he rises, Devastator enters, only to have his finger ripped from his hand and used to beat Thundercracker into the ground. Using both his Ion Blaster and Megatron's fusion cannon, Optimus blasts himself into the air and kicks Devastator to the ground. Cliffjumper struggles to fight back against Starscream, who holds him in a chokehold. But just in time, Carly is able to grab a Cybertronian pistol and hit Starscream directly in the chest. Now downed, Starscream watches in terror as Cliffjumper walks over to finish the job. But he cannot. Cliffjumper lowers his weapon, tormented by the countless ages of violence. Faced with the opportunity of revenge, Cliffjumper only wants the endless killing to stop, something that Carly does not understand and does not agree with. In the midst of their agreement, however, Carly is grabbed by Starscream, who begins to tighten his grip around her, just like he did to her father. Optimus continues his battle with Devastator, and miraculously is able to use leverage atop a mountain to flip the hulking monster over his head and slam him down into the side of the Ark. In doing so, Starscream loses his balance and drops Carly. As Starscream plummets to the ground, Carly is saved by Cliffjumper. but asks how he could let the violence continue when given the chance to end it. The Constructicons, now fallen apart from their combined form, gather Starscream and escape, as Soundwave is left to fend for himself. But Optimus does not attack. Rather, he reaches his hand out and asks that the two end the senseless violence and save their home together. Soundwave contemplates this option for a moment, but is brought back to the war when glancing at the state of Ravage, damaged beyond repair from the Autobots' battle aboard the Ark. Soundwave refuses to work alongside Optimus and throws a punch that is caught. Thundercracker arrives and flies the remaining Decepticons away from the Ark as Optimus has a moment to rest from his battle. In the Farmingham Hospital, doctors rush in to Spike's room as he awakens from his coma. Instructed not to speak, Spike writes on a piece of paper the only thing that matters to him. Where's my dad? This first volume of Transformers brought many new emotions to the franchise. Seeing our childhood heroes like Bumblebee be killed so quickly was a bold move by writer Daniel Warren Johnson, and the sheer brutality of the war turned many new readers off. But in the midst of such violence came so many moments of self-reflection and world-building. The relationship between Carly and Cliffjumper is short-lived, and yet their falling out is heartbreaking, as they both are suffering from the same thing. Sparky and Optimus taking the time to discuss the toll that the war takes on one's soul is another highlight that shows us the maturity on display in this series. As Volume 1 comes to a close, we are instilled with a sense of bittersweet victory, as the Autobots now have the upper hand on Earth, but the losses that have happened to gain this advantage run far deeper than simple outward battle scars. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time for Volume 2.